Hello, and welcome back to Truth-Based Relationships, the podcast. I am Juan Andrés, your host. And today we're having the final episode of this first season. And we're going to focus mainly in the self-work section of the Authentic Self Relationships model. We have been seeing through the different episodes so far, different reflections and different explorations of the different dimensions that allow you to assess where are you coming from in any interaction. Mindset, responsibility, and heart space, or where do we give from, and trying to find ways to reach from our truth, a state of sincere consideration that we can share with others to develop truth-based relationships. So I want to go a little bit into the core of the self-work section for me, that is actually what allows you to reach co-creation. I think in any relationship, the most core aspect, it is, what are your beliefs? What are your beliefs in relationship, and why are you in relationship in the first place, in any kind of relationship? So as a very practical fact, I would really encourage you to, in any kind of relationship you are, especially when you are struggling, it's a time to observe what is your expectation? What is the story in your head in a way? Why do you believe a certain relationship should function in a particular way? And this is basically this aspect of morality, the right or wrong way of doing things from the mindset dimension that we have seen also in detail to some extent. And we have to assess, okay, what is to be a friend? Again, what is to be a partner? What is to be a coworker? What is to be a family member in different ways? And I think it's every time that you have an issue, you will have your own exploration. And this is what actually is the first part of the self-work section, that is exploring these layers. And as you see again in the title, it says developing safety or regaining safety. Basically, what you're doing here is to observe, why are we feeling afraid? Why are we feeling off? Why are we feeling struggling with something? And we're going to see that our belief system is in a great part the base in which we compare our experience with. So we actually will go into this fearful side. So to give you an example, we are exploring layers if I feel like I'm feeling constantly responsible for other people's feelings. Okay, so this is how you're going to apply the model. As we have seen before, I realize that I'm constantly in a defensive mode. I am trying to take away the blame that I'm feeling from another person. I want to be out of this position of being the perpetrator, as we have been seeing also. And I don't want to be there. I'm, again, rejecting the unwanted reality in which I am causing harm to someone, and I don't want to be there. This is making me stuck in the state of guilt and blame. And I realize that is my pattern. It's like, I keep on reacting and being completely defensive when I feel that somebody's being affected. So I realize that I will never reach sincere consideration if I stay there, because I'm not connecting with my own thoughts and feelings. I'm not being responsible of my own thoughts and feelings. I'm not connecting with what I believe and what I feel for this other person. So you see, in this moment is when we need to understand the responsibility of your thoughts also. So being responsible of your thoughts is being responsible of your beliefs. And I'm saying this now because I think we have been taking this aspect of being responsible of your thoughts and feelings mostly connected with feelings. And I want to really highlight that the thought aspect of it is very, very important. And it's mostly observed in our beliefs. And this is the time when I connect with my thoughts and feelings, and I can take responsibility of those belief systems at the same time than the feelings that I'm experiencing in this interaction. So when you are studying yourself, and this is, again, very important if it's not clear so far, this model will not be necessarily applied right away in the moment of an interaction. Sometimes I talk to people and they believe like, oh my God, I cannot actually get to that point of being responsible for my thoughts and feelings in the moment that I'm feeling triggered. And maybe you will not be able to do that for a while, because you will get there by practicing the awareness, by, in a way, rewiring your neural circuits and you will be developing new ways of responding, and you will be moving further away from reacting and more into responding in a more integrated way. So again, you will be studying your behavior. So again, you give yourself time for doing the self-work, and then you observe your pattern, and then you may think about what happened in the previous week or the previous day or the last hour if you're regulated enough to observe, and you will see that you are stuck in this space of blame and guilt. So now is the moment to actually take responsibility of your thoughts and feelings. And that is actually what you're doing when you are exploring the layers. So exploring the layers is part of being responsible of your thoughts and feelings. It's like, oh, I'm afraid, I'm in guilt, I'm in blame. What am I afraid of? So you will do that by being responsible of your thoughts and feelings. Sorry for repeating all of this, but hopefully it's making sense and it's clear enough that you will need to do this from a mindset towards truth with curiosity and humility that allows you to be responsible of these thoughts and feelings, that will be detaching yourself and your behavior from the preconceptions of how things are supposed to happen. That is, again, the mindset of morality. So the fear, when we observe fears, this is all going to be very combined. We're going to believe, for example, I'm afraid that I would hurt this person. And if I hurt this person will move away from me, will withdraw, will not like me anymore, will not hang out anymore, will leave me, abandon me even. So we can go into these things. But what is that fear based on? And this is what we have to address, the thoughts that are behind. So the fear is one predominant feeling, let's say. So I'm being responsible of that by observing it. But now I'm taking responsibility of the thought behind. Like the first question is like, why do I believe that I can hurt someone, right? So this is one of the biggest things that we have to challenge. I'm afraid that I will hurt someone. That is the fear. So we have to start by reflecting on, can I really hurt someone? And this is something that we have been exploring again in previous episodes, but is really understanding that you cannot feel fully responsible for the other person's feelings because you are doing the best you can, and the other person may have a response that is not predictable. So this is part of an aspect that you later will see in the co-creation, because you will need eventually to have an understanding that we will feel things not just by the behavior of the other one, but also by our own interpretations, our own mood, and our own capacity of taking reality in that time. Meaning we will not be expecting the other person to be responsible of our thoughts and feelings, although we would like to receive consideration from them. And again, this is why the sincere consideration in the model is the result of applying responsibility of your own thoughts and feelings, the mindset towards truth, and the heart space, giving only when you feel generous. So that's what we want to experience. So do we believe in giving the benefit of the doubt that people is not wanting to harm us intentionally? This is the very first important thing you need to have in the co-creation. Do we believe that people are not intending to harm us? That when we feel hurt because of their actions, and our interpretation of that is not a sign of an attack, is not a gesture of an evidence, let's say, of their lack of consideration and their, in a way, aggressive behavior? So this is the part of the thoughts that we carry, that maybe we believe that if someone is saying something from which I feel hurt, they are trying to hurt me. So this is part of the thought we carry. You see, so this is part of being responsible of your fear. You know, the wounds and the needs will come later, but the first link is the fears that will connect with I'm afraid because of my belief. So by being responsible of my thoughts and feelings, I will connect with the belief that, for example, can be that I believe that this person that I love sometimes wants to hurt me. And they are purposely ignoring what I have said, for example, my preferences and my likings, and they're deliberately ignoring what I have told them that I like. So because they're doing something that I don't like, it means that they are against me on purpose and they are attacking me on purpose. So that is the thought. So these two things we are realizing with our thoughts is that we believe that people can hurt us directly. So we are believing that people are responsible of our thoughts and feelings. That is also the same belief that we are responsible of other people's thoughts and feelings, meaning if anybody feels hurt, it's our responsibility. So we are having that belief. And this is my invitation that you move on away from that. And you realize that you are giving your best. And if the other person feels hurt, you cannot feel responsible for that. You can only try to reach to consideration when the other person is experiencing pain or suffering. And you can only reach there if you take responsibility of your thoughts and feelings, including even the cognitive dissonance that you feel responsible, but you want to connect with what is the other person's experience because you didn't want to do that purposely. Okay, so this is part of an assessing and being responsible of your thoughts and feelings with the first layer of fears. Okay, so the fear is connected with my belief. You know, I'm having my fear based on this belief. So I'm taking responsibility of that by assessing those fears and those beliefs. And you see already this is giving you a lot of information to use in the co-creation. You see, because if we actually go further into needs, you're going to realize that observing these thoughts are giving you the cues that you have needs, for example, of a shared reality, of collaboration and consideration, let's say. And all of those can only happen, or let's say have a maximum efficiency or a highly ability to happen if you are on the same page, if you are co-creating this thing, if you actually have conversations and realize, okay, we want to collaborate, we want to be considered, and we want to have a shared reality. So what is our belief regarding the responsibility of our actions? And what is the responsibility on other people's thoughts and feelings? There are different things. Again, I usually say that we are fully responsible of our behavior, of what we do, what is a direct consequence of our actions, but we cannot be responsible actually of what is the interpretation of our behavior. That's what I'm saying with this thing. And it doesn't mean, again, and this is a very sensitive topic, so we'll highlight and repeat again, this is not an excuse for you to be dismissive, to say, okay, now it's your problem. You deal with your feelings. It's your responsibility. Because if you care for that other person, if you have this statement, you are not honoring your own thoughts and feelings. You are not being responsible with your thoughts and feelings. You are acting again from this defensive, dismissive attitude of being stuck in blame and guilt that will defend yourself and will try to take yourself away from the role of the perpetrator. But if you actually connected with your thoughts and feelings, you realize, well, I actually care about the other person and I will feel affected when the other person is in pain. I will have a moment of compassion. I will care, and that will show up. So if there's genuine care, people will not be dismissive when they're acting from their integration. If that happens in a moment where they're not integrated and they acted out in this way, probably they will have to, if they want to grow together, of course, I would suggest to them at least to do this processing of the self-work and observing why they were being dismissive and how can they connect with their real thoughts and feelings. How can they be responsible of that? Because when you don't know what to do, you just go to the easy way out that takes you away from the conflict. It's a conflict avoidance. And we have seen this thing that we need to transcend that to work on the togetherness in spite of conflict. And this is what we can do by sharing a belief system that will support us to deal with the moments of conflict. So I'm coming back to the layers in the self-work section, and we have addressed how much exploring these fears will bring up your beliefs. And from these beliefs and these feelings, you will actually observe the needs that are behind. This is what we're saying. I'm not touching too much with wounds now because it's just understanding that when the first needs were not met, we created emotional imprints in our history, usually when we're young. And that is something that these wounds, basically, when we experience similar situations, they will get triggered, meaning it's like a wound actually getting open again. Because we associate the current event with the previous event. So we are charging the current event with the emotional load of the original event. And that wound, in a way, is growing because there's a narrative connected with that, because you can create a story in your head also that is connected with these wounds, and we can have narratives associated with the wounds, saying, for example, I'm not a likable person, or I'm a boring person, whatever. And but this is a more complex scenario that you can explore when you do the self-work section, exploring your fears and wounds. But as you see, this is part of the thoughts that you also carry. So that would be part of being responsible of your thoughts and feelings. These things can become quite complex also. And for sure, you can request for professional help. Psychotherapy is a good tool to do that with someone that you can trust and you feel that you align in your principles and you are feeling assisted by that. And that's the work that I do. As I said before, like, I developed this model because of the work I did with my clients, and I keep on doing. And we go through these things. And these are parts of the model that sometimes can need some assistance. And it's great to have some professional help to help you to go through your fears, to go through your wounds, and observe and find what are your needs. That is what you want to find out, how to meet them away from the patterns that you are carrying by repeating the reactions from your fears and your wounds. Okay, so this is the first section that we're observing. And it's all about being responsible of your thoughts and feelings, you see? And then you understand more what is connected with your fears, how did you react, what is being triggered from the past with the wounds, what are the belief systems associated with all of that, and what are the needs. And again, those needs are knowing what needs you need to meet is what allows you to come to the co-creation, to the common space with someone else with this invitation, with this intention. And to be very clear, this first side, exploring the layers, is a work you need to do on your own. Sometimes it can be supported by another person. Sometimes you can even share it with loved ones, or even with the same person you're exploring these interactions, but it's a personal process. Okay, and as I said, you may be assisted with professional help, but it's something that you need to find out on your own. And then you will go into the co-creation. Then you will go into the common space. And when you do go into the common space, it's going to be much easier to do it when you are clear with what are the needs you're trying to meet in this relationship. So you see, we have the overall mindset that is telling us, okay, we want to be friends. What is friendship for you? What is friendship for me? And we can just discuss overall visions and ideas of what is the experience we want to have in a relationship of friendship. And there will be complements of that co-creation when we experience interactions that don't feel so satisfactory, when we feel off. And this is the cue to actually use the model, and we'll observe where are we coming from, basically. So the question constantly is, where am I acting from? Where am I coming from in this interaction? Again, where is my mindset at? Where is my heart space at? Where is my responsibility aims towards? Okay, so this is what you will be doing to do the self-work again and to find out what are your fears, what are your wounds, what are your needs, to bring that back to the co-creation in the common space. Okay, so this is the process that we do to apply this. And it needs the commitment with that. I really want to encourage you that this is something that is big, is huge. If you resonate with this model, this is basically replacing other models that you have in your head subconsciously. You have validated other models. It's not like you have a blank slate in your head and you don't believe in anything. You are carrying a lot, again, of mindset of morality. And that's telling you what is the right or the wrong way to do things. I cannot tell you how it looks to have a nice relationship. I'm going to assist you in finding out how you can find the truest version that you can be in any given moment in relationships, and how you can have the most compatible relationships you can ever have. So this is what can happen through applying this model. And the co-creation is something we come back to constantly. And you can do it also in ways of checking in with someone, and you can discuss what's going on for the other person. You can, every time you have conversations about even how was your day, How did you feel with this thing that happened at work, with your friends, with your partner, with your family, with whoever? The more we get to know the other person, we have chances of co-creating. We have chances to say, hey, oh, that's interesting. So you felt like this when this person did that. Oh, I'm curious. I would love to know more about that. Like what is the story in your head behind that? How did you interpret that way? Because then you can get a glimpse of what are the other person's values, principles, visions, mindset. And that is something that you want to maybe assess with the other person. Like, hey, maybe I feel a potential clash with this, or I feel like, well, I feel very different than this. And I want to, again, be curious and humble, exploring the truth. So in a way, what I just said is part of reality checks. So you can do them not necessarily when there's an unwanted interaction or you have a sort of conflict, that these three things are always there. Again, what happened, what are the feelings, and what is the story in your head? What is the interpretation? So in particular, reality checks with someone in which you want to come back to assess an interaction that happened, this is advice to be applied all together. So we'll repeat a little bit. For me, it's very important that when we do reality checks with someone else, it's because we want to explore the truth with the other person. And we have to do it fully responsible of our thoughts and feelings, meaning we have to be careful. We have to be caring of ourselves and to know that we may expose something quite sensitive and vulnerable for ourselves. And that means that I have to go cautiously to see if the other person is available to co-create that space with me. So remember to always ask generic questions first, like, would you be open to talk about us? Do you have some time to talk about our relationship? And only if they say yes, you will move to the next question. That it would be something like, again, would you be up for talking about what happened yesterday over at lunch or this and that? And you just express the situation and the context very generically. So to see if the other person is available. And if only if they say yes, you will go to this core aspect of the reality checks. And remember that if you receive any no throughout that process, you need to go into your own space and self-regulate and self-soothe. And we have talked a bit about the techniques for that. The summary is just BTSM. Like, these are the most important variables that allow very efficient self-soothing techniques. That is about breath, touch, sound, and movement. And the touches can be with yourself, or sometimes you can feel co-regulating with someone else when receiving someone else's touch. So you can explore those techniques, but that's something that you need to do mostly on your own to go back to that self-regulation. But if the other person is saying yes, as we have said before, you can go to that core aspect of the reality check. That is basically to say, when this happened, I felt this way, and this is the story in my head. And again, this is when we give the possibility, we allow the other person to be considered with us. And that may happen or it may not happen. And this is part of the compatibility that you're going to be exploring over time. If someone is not connecting to your reality checks, if someone is not available constantly for you to express your feelings, these are very important things that you need to reassess. You can even come back to the more overall co-creation and ask, well, do you believe in growing together, for example? Do you believe in sharing what is important for us? Do you believe in sharing our feelings? Do you believe in processing things together? What do you like of these things? What do you want? And again, in this specific situation, sometimes it will give you the cue to go into a more overall definition of what is this relationship about, because that can also change. When you have relationships that last years, decades maybe, sometimes these things can change. Sometimes maybe people were very keen on discussing daily lives and what's going on with different process people, and that was maybe interesting or fun. And after some time, people is not interested that much anymore. So that can be always reassessed. And be careful with being demanding. Be careful with being, again, expecting the other person to be responsible of your thoughts and feelings and going into the victim role and saying, oh my God, but you have changed. You used to like this. Why don't you like this anymore? You know, in a demanding way. Again, you can always ask that in a very sincere way, being responsible of your thoughts and feelings that is coming from the care towards the other one, when you actually have generosity of giving your time and space and you're curious to explore the dimension of truth from your mindset, in which you can say, again, a reality check, for example, when you expressed that you don't want to know more about my work life. I feel sad, disappointed, a bit angry. And the story in my head is that you don't love me as much as you did before, or I'm not so important in your life anymore, or you got bored of me and you think I'm boring, any of these things. So those are the stories in your head, and you can share them in that way. And you are sharing them in a reality check because you trust that that space is validated, because it's standing on your beliefs of a co-created space of the relationship. And if that, again, doesn't feel right, you can always come back one step and say, okay, do we believe in this? So you see, any sense of depth that you have in a relationship is lying on the foundation of your co-creation. So it's important not to just dive on your own and take a dive on your own and you go like 20 meters in one dive on your own. Check in with the other one. Go 50 centimeters. Hey, are you here with me? Are we going as deep? Do we care? Do we want? Is it equally interesting for you? Do you want to go deeper? And then if the other person says, yes, of course, let's go. And you can keep on going deeper. And maybe at one point, somebody will say, you know what? This is as far as I want to go for now, today, in this period of my life, who knows? And this is important for you to assess. Okay, so maybe this person doesn't go as deep as I would like, or as what I consider deep. Maybe for the other person, this is considered something else. So you will see again if you're on the same page, if you have a shared reality or not. And again, if that happens, you may actually be dealing with unwanted reality, and you may have to actually do the grieving, needing to accept unwanted reality, as we have also expressed in another episode. But it's very, in a way, very supportive to rely on co-creation, because every time that you feel that you're not on the same page, you can have a reality check and say, hey, where are we at right now? And if you keep on doing this, this is going to be the easiest way to keep track of the movements of the relationship. Instead of living by a preconceived notion of morality in which it tells us how a relationship is supposed to flow, we will be living exactly the relationship that we are co-creating live on the spot, day by day. And we will see if we are still aligned. And every time you have a confirmation that you're on the same page with someone, it's really beautiful and exciting and hopeful. And it's like, wow, we are growing together. And at the same time, when you are feeling that you're going into different dimensions, different directions, in different ways, it can be sad. But if you're constantly checking in with each other and developing this co-creation, it's going to feel much less painful or disheartening if you are just checking that a tiny bit of a movement is happening. And then you have the time to grieve that and to reassess the relationship and to reassess the co-creation and maybe to reassess the compatibility. And maybe there's going to be a transition. And the more we allow ourselves to move in small transitions throughout our relationships, we have much more capacity to adapt, and we'll have less suffering, less moments of hopelessness, because it's a small movement and you can deal with that. And you can deal with that with the other one, most likely. When you have like a big breach, when you have like a huge gap that has been created because you have not been checking in with the other person for a long time, it's going to feel very, very shocking. And it's going to be very hard to deal with it. And this is usually what happens when something just comes up in a very radical way, when somebody realizes and tells you like, I don't love you anymore. Like, boom, it's like, what? This is a bomb. It's crazy. It's too much at one time, as they describe trauma. It's like too much, too soon, too fast. So if we are in relationships that are based on co-creation, we are not going to express that, because the moment that you feel the other person is moving in a different direction, or it just feels off, imagine you are giving yourself credit when it just feels off. You listen to your intuition, you listen to your belly. How is it feeling? And you can just come and say, hey, it feels a bit weird the way you were drinking your coffee this morning when we were talking. And that's enough of a cue to just check. And the other person can say, actually, no, I'm feeling fine. I'm going to keep observing. Or maybe they say, yeah, maybe I was thinking a bit about my aunt because she had this story with whatever, anything. So you will, again, stimulate more truth, more conversation, more communication. And this is the base of co-creation. Again, as we said in the model, in the chart, it's reality checks and communication. That is what's allowing this to happen. And I want to include one extra variable with reality checks. And this is why I encourage them so much. And it's weirdness. I want to encourage people to be weird, to be different, to be unique. And this is also coming from a little bit of a vision that I usually tell my clients that a lot of people feel different in the world. A lot of people feel weird and they want to be in the normality. And the more I say, like, well, there's not really a normality, like everybody wants to be kind of more normal or pretending that they're normal, but it's not really something beyond statistics that are just imposing a little bit of the way we are all aiming to be. Anyway, I don't want to go too much into demographics, but if we just change the notion of weirdness into uniqueness, we can realize that we are all unique in this world, and we are. And the more we allow that uniqueness to blossom, to be expressed, to be shared, the more we allow other people to be as unique. And what is the mechanism that is going beyond here is, again, authenticity. How can we encourage each other to be authentic and to live our authenticity? We're talking about the authentic self-relationships model, right? So this element of authenticity is encouraged by novelty, by what's new, by what's different. The more you experience something that you know, or that you have a story in your head of how it's supposed to function, the more you go into autopilots. This is part of a very adaptive part of our brain. We need to know that, chairs are solid enough to hold our weight, and that food is going to be digested, and you're going to get, nutrition, and you're not like waiting to see how I'm going to digest this carrot. Is going to poison me? Is it going not to? We don't deal with these things. We trust a lot of things in our life, in daily life, to actually be able to function. But in relationships, you can actually allow yourself to go away a little bit of this autopilot. And that means we are moving further away from just surviving in life. Because autopilot is about just moving forward and progressing and just producing, consuming, being alive, maintaining the species. Like, we are carried by a lot of automatisms that are based with that. And this is coming from all the other animals that we see how they function. But we have created another aspect in human life, that is intentionality. And we can be intentional. We can transcend the automatic response, and we can go into, how do I want this to be experienced? What intention do I want to put into this? And this is what we do with relationships. That's the invitation that I'm giving you, that is, make relationships as you want them to be, and see if you resonate with other people that have similar visions, and then you can have a nourishing relationship because you have enough compatibility. But that, again, can be encouraged by being unique and by being honest and by expressing your truth. And sometimes this can be, again, encouraged by doing unique things, let's say the weird things, as asking how the other person is doing with a reality check. Because yes, I know it can be weird. It can feel weird. It can be different than how people can usually talk, to go into say, hey, when you did this, I felt like that. And this is the story in my head. And I say, yes, that's why it functions. Because when you listen to something that you haven't heard before, when you listen to something different and new and weird, you actually have more chances to be authentic, because your brain is not knowing anything about this before. So either you will go into assumptions and trying to create things from what you know before, or you will just have to create a new response altogether, into say, okay, I have to actually process everything that this person is saying, and I will connect with it step by step. You see, so novelty potentiates authenticity. So by being different in contexts that, again, that are feeling safe, because otherwise you will go into a survival mode response. You will go into fight or flight. If you feel something, like if your computer starts floating in front of you, you may actually go into fight or flight mode. But if you are feeling already safe enough, you will actually be able to be taken into a new world, a novel world. It's like what happens when we see sometimes fantasy movies, or we read fantasy books. And it stimulates our imagination. And we're like, wow, I had never imagined, lakes floating in the air, and I don't know, fairies coming out of the earth, and all this fantasy that we experience is about things we don't know. And if you realize, a lot of what fantasy gives us is a feeling of joy, of wonder, or imagination, creativity, and in a way it's connected with hope. In a way it's connected with, oh my God, like amazing things can happen. And that's a bit of the childlike wonder that we carry. And I think the more we can go into that, we discover a new sense of joy in life, a little bit connected with excitement. It's like, oh, this is interesting. This is exciting. Like, oh, this is the way you felt with that. Wow, that's very interesting. I would never have thought that because I see things in this way. And actually, we can live our relationships as an adventure, as a path in which we're discovering truth constantly, and we are reassessing, why are we there? What are our visions? Why do we believe we have to be together in XYZ way? And that actually can bring a lot of joy because you're living your truth, you're living the present, and you are connecting with novelty constantly. And that, again, if you are in a base safe mode, you can allow yourself to go into the adventure of that. The issue for a lot of people is that they have not developed a safe enough container in their daily lives. So they tend to still be in survival mode, meaning they want the least novelty possible because they deal with enough stress every day of their lives. So you have to see, where are you at? Either you want to reduce some stress in your daily life to actually have more energy to live relationships that are novel and nourishing and exciting and joyful, or you want to keep relationships as a baseline that you don't want it to be moved. You want to stick with morality and you don't want to shake things up because that's enough safety for you. And this is not your adventure. And it's fine. You choose that because your truth can be that. Your truth can be, I need things to move the least possible. But I want to tell you that that may not be including the truth and the new things that happen actually every day, because they will happen. We just usually tend to choose not to say them, not to express. And this is, if you look at a lot of conventional relationships, that's a lot of what happens. Things are just not spoken because people are expecting that people will do the right thing. So again, you choose if you want to live relationships by a default script and not to have much novelty, although it's going to happen anyway and things just blow up one day or the other. But it's your choice. Or you want to, in a way, prevent that and say, you know what, I'm not going to wait for something to blow up in my face. I want to be checking constantly, how are we moving step by step in a relationship? And maybe what you need to be stable is to be more with yourself, because that may be also your truth. And it's connected with, instead of expecting people to be predictable, maybe you need to deal less with people because you need to control more your life and you have to be safer with less quantity of variables. So maybe sometimes for the path of truth, I would encourage you that if you're feeling saturated, maybe you need less social content and more connection with yourself and more self-care and more self-soothing, and finding that safe base in which you want to explore relationships, not just for surviving, but actually for expanding. And you have to see what is your vision and what is the way you want to live relationships. At least my invitation is to embrace the adventure to go into truth. And that's going to be, in my perspective, a great opportunity for growth and for expansion. As I've been saying before, this co-creation needs to be very much complemented constantly with the assessment of boundaries and compatibility. And please listen to the previous episodes for more detail in that. And compatibility is something that, again, is one of the biggest variables that is usually unnoticed in relationships. And just a few more words with this is that in any way, I'm trying to say that compatibility is a black or white situation that you have to see if people are compatible with you or not. And if they're not, you're going to give up on them easily. It's not at all. We have to let go of this idea that we are not caring for other people. The base of this model is, again, is sincere consideration. So it is about connecting, but both to yourself and the other person. And it has to do a lot with these beliefs we were talking before about why are we here together? Do we believe that we want the best for each other? And do we believe that the other person may have blind spots and may have capacities that we have to assess if they are matching with our needs or not? And that, again, is compatibility, is not goodwill, is not willingness in that sense. So the compatibility, again, allows you to have the best possible relationships you can have with anyone without expecting them to be what you imagine they could be. So that's the assessment of boundaries and compatibility you have to have constantly through the co-creation with people. And that's the invitation of, again, novelty potentiating authenticity. And I want to finish up with that invitation on how to use this model for yourself, to study this, to study your interactions, not to force yourself to apply this in every way, every time you have a difficult situation, but to study yourself and to reflect on your behavior previously. And you study what happened the previous day, the previous week, as I said before. You study that, you observe all the dimensions. Where am I acting from? You try to focus on one dimension only. Maybe you can feel, oh my God, I'm acting from morality and I'm feeling responsible for the other person's feelings and I'm also giving out of duty. So it's hard to tackle everything together. So try to focus on one thing at a time. So, okay, I want to assess my morality and why am I having a mindset towards morality instead of exploring the truth? And then you observe your fears, your wounds, your needs. And then maybe you bring that to the co-creation. And then you do reality checks and observe communication. You get to know each other better. And then you may find a different sense of ease. Again, you will be moving further into this togetherness in spite of conflict, which makes you trust the relationship more, which allow you to bring even more things to the common space, will allow you to have more reality checks, more co-creation, more sincere consideration. And you will have this growing relationship that will be adapting to the growth of each person and seeing how that compatibility is moving through time and with potential transitions throughout. The last reminder of reality checks is that, again, remember that if you receive a reality check, try to receive it as if you were watching a movie and connect with that, again, from the novelty that can be, and to say, wow, I had never thought that this could be interpreted this way. And then how do you respond to that? Away from your projection of, but I would have done it like this. No, it's about the other person. If you're listening, if you're watching the movies, you are not in the movie. Let yourself listen, be soaked by that, and respond emotionally away from the projection. And this is to act from the responsibility of your own thoughts and feelings. If you're not feeling capable to do that, you take a pause, you state a boundary, say, I don't want to listen to you if I don't have the capacity and the ability to hold space for you, to basically give out of generosity. My heart space is not there. I'm just giving out of duty. I'm waiting for you to finish so I can just say my thing and I get validated about my perception. And sometimes we do that and it's fine. Like we can just bring everything to the common space and discuss that. And we take things in small portions, sometimes not to overload ourselves or other people. But again, we, instead of having all this blame and guilt that, oh my God, I may be too much, I may be doing too much of this, too much of that, and I may not be giving the other person the space to be, I may hurt them, and all these concerns, can we just trust that the other person will tell you if they are feeling away from their safety, away from their boundaries? So it changes so much when the trust in the togetherness in spite of conflict is not about you walking on eggshells anymore, but you trusting the co-creation in which anybody who doesn't feel that they want to stay in that common space, they will express that. And that person knows that if they express that boundary, you will receive it with the understanding that this is a valid act and you can move forward from that, even if it doesn't feel that nice in that moment. Okay, so you can re-listen some of the episodes after this as well. And I want to also invite you to the next season that I'm going to do in Truth-Based Relationships, the podcast. And this is going to be focused very practically for any of you. So I'm going to be hosting sessions in which any two people, again, siblings and partners or coworkers or friends or any other relationships, 2 people will be invited to the show, and then I will apply the model to one interaction they have had that has been, to say, conflictive, or they have been struggling with that, and they would like to have more clarity on this. So we'll focus on one particular interaction. So if you would like to be in the podcast, just message me through social media and I can discuss it in details with you. You will be coming together. You can choose to be on video or not. And basically, people will hear your story, of course, and we can find, again, alternative names and all the safety measures for you to feel safe. But it will be great for people to listen to how this can be applied to real case scenarios. And please contact me if you want to have that. And thank you so much for listening. Hopefully this has been nourishing for you. I invite you to keep practicing truth-based relationships as much as you can, and I'm happy to collaborate for any other thing. I hope you enjoyed the first season. I'm looking forward to keep on collaborating with any of you, so please write me on social media if you have any inquiries or any possibilities for collaboration. Happy to support anybody that is taking this path of truth-based relationships as something they want to explore and keep on developing in their lives. If you like this content, please share it with anyone you like, and rate the show and follow on social media. And let me know again if you want to be a participant of the second season with your life experiences. This is Truth-Based Relationships, the podcast. I'm Juan Andrés, and signing off for now, and until the next season. Wishing you all well.